Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Listen with Vobes. It's very nice to be here on a Friday inside. I have been outside this morning in the cold and slightly rather nasty weather that we have down in Rustington and Littlehampton area, but I'm back and I have finished editing a video for tomorrow. It's the 4th of December 2020. And we are heading towards Christmas, and we are reading on Southern English roads. And just before I came on air, I was listening to something, and just a startling little piece of tidbit information which I throw out apropos of nothing, which has nothing to do with the reading or anything, but it may be of interest to those people listening about this sodding virus. And that is apparently after the Second World War, it became absolutely illegal that no government can mandate that you have anything put into your body without your consent. I didn't know that. It is illegal. So a government can't force you to take any injection of anything without your consent. We've signed up to some global thing, which is fascinating. Let's say hello to a few people. The lovely Julia is out there. Hello, lovely Julia. I know she's just come back from collecting her son in the rain and pouring cold. Pouring cold? The cold poured down, I'm sure. But I'm glad she's back now and safe. And hello to Tall Podge, to the allotment channel, who is no doubt brewing up something in his shed. And looking out my window, there's a beautiful orange-red sky. Oh, well, that's very nice. Hello to Billabong O'Neill from South Links in snow, which is interesting. And we've got Laura Noel who says, good morning. We're walking on sunshine and don't it feel good? I hope it does. It's pretty chilly over here. I've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers on today. 2 jumpers. Yeah. I know. There's no heat in the studio, you see. The Green Man, hello to you. Nice to see you. Orange glow over the North Downs. Oh, that's nice. Of course, I forget that it's, as we do this show, is light. And then when I finish the show, an hour later, it's dark. We have Michael White, hello to you. Turbo Stream, nice to see you. Second day of awful weather with him. And Dave of Yore and John F. Hello to all of you. And I'm sure others are coming along. Oh, yes, here we go. Carol Glue, nice to see you. Justine Jones from sunny Somerset. Fantastic. Philip Hammond and Mary, good afternoon. To you, Andrew Norris, What Ho and Linda Kane. Cold today, but a lovely sunset promised. Yeah, there's a slit. There's a tiniest of slits in my studio, ladies and gentlemen. And all I can see through that slit, you can't see it. There it is, look. You see that? I'm just seeing through there a slit of grey. Doesn't look very nice. Lee Lawson, whoops, had to refresh because it wasn't showing. I know that does happen from time to time. Turbo says the vaccine will be strength. You will need to prove you've had it to do anything or go anywhere. End of COVID rant. Apparently it's illegal to be coerced. That's another thing that I heard. It's illegal for it to be coerced. We'll talk about that on the Vogue show later on tonight, maybe. We are reading our book, and we are, how far are we now? Nearly halfway through, ladies and gentlemen, nearly halfway through. Are you still enjoying it? That's what I want to know. So we were going off. We still don't know really who we is, in this dog cart of his. Is it him and his wife and a child, do you imagine? There's no mention of the other people. It's just we. It's fascinating. Dudley Sawyer, he says, good afternoon, wearing 2 layers. It must be warm in your house. I don't have any heating unless I light the Hissey, which I have done, but that's in the kitchen. I shall be hibernating in there when I decide what to cook later. Within a mile of Storrington is Parham, one of the most picturesque and interesting old mansions in the kingdom, notable for its unique collection of ancient armour, including some suits of the Crusaders brought from Constantinople, where they had been hung up in a mosque, as well as for a library of most rare works that includes a copy of A World of Wonders, printed in 1607. And bearing the autograph of Shakespeare on the title page, and many beautiful, valuable and curious paintings. I have been promised, it never happened, but I'm hoping it still might, to get a video tour inside Parham House. Parham, sorry. I can't help but call it Parham, but they like to call it Parham. Hey-ho. Having heard of the wonderful treasures that Parham contains, before starting on our journey, we had boldly written, asking, as we were driving past, if we might be allowed to see the ancient armour, and to our delighted surprise they were most courteously granted with coveted permission, an unexpected kindness that we greatly appreciated, the more especially as we were conscious that we had no right to beg such a favour. Please let me see it. Oh, please, I want to see the armour. Please, please. Go away. Oh, please. I do not see why any nobleman or gentleman who may be the fortunate possessor of an interesting house with a storied past and gathered treasures therein should be expected to admit any curious stranger to them. Go away, I say. Oh, please, please. Every Englishman's house is his castle, even a nobleman's. Nevertheless, for this once we acted as though we, turns the page, had no such delicate scruples. So much easier it is to preach than to praise. To preach than to practice even. See, misread the sodding words. Parham House is truly forest-like in character, with a wealth of wild woodland sloping away into shady glens. It abounds in grand ancestral oaks and boasts of a flourishing heronry. Heronry? Yeah, heronry, I suppose. Yes, flourishing heron, as in herons. I thought at first when I read that it was heraldry, and I thought that's why I went heronry, and then I had to think, oh, herons. Is that right? Are we talking about herons? Heronry? Flourishing heronry? Is that what we're talking about? As we drove through the park, we passed by many a century-old oak and fir-crowned knoll. Then, suddenly, straight before us, stood revealed the grey and ancient mansion of Parham, a very picture in stone, with romance written over its time-stained walls. The place impressed us, though our impression was not one to be conveyed in mere words. When you attempt to describe poetry, the poem vanishes. There are some things beyond the reach of words, feelings too subtle for outward expression. Parham is approached through a courtyard in the picturesque, old-fashioned manner. Truly, those Englishmen of old knew how to build a stately home. The house is purely Elizabethan, with the exception of some unimportant portions of an earlier building incorporated into it, and there are not now many genuine Elizabethan houses remaining in England, many of those being considered of James I's time. To describe Parham and its treasures aright would take a volume at the very least, and I cannot even spare a chapter. It is, therefore, well, it's because you told us so much waffle about other things, that's why you can't spare us a chapter. I mean, if you mention again about how the railways have been a pain, you could have probably saved a chapter there. I mean, 2 sentences would have done it. But anyway, Lee Lawson says, I was taken to Parham on a school trip in 1962 and saw a huge bowl of pot puree, something I'd never heard of at the time. It was beautiful in a huge bowl, and I've never forgotten. Ah, that's nice. Yes, anyway, entering the fine old hall, lighted by large mullioned windows and having a flat, enriched plaster ceiling, we were at once struck by the man at the door with a large fist. Oh, sorry, misread that. We were at once struck by the grand effect of the ancient armour, ranged around the walls in stately chronological order and gleaming array. Many of the pieces are historical and of exceeding interest. The armour is mostly the 13th, 14th and 15th centuries, though some of it is of a much earlier period, one Anglo-Saxon helmet being of the 7th century. Amongst the helmets, one was pointed out to us as being that of Robert Bruce, also alongside that of Sir Henry de Bohun, who was killed by Bruce on the 23rd of June, 1314. This helmet shows a big dent and a hole at the top where the battle axe of the Scottish king struck it with that fatal blow. Take that there! That's all right. That was an Irish bloke. I'm so sorry. Got so excited. An Irishman. I'm sorry, I'm in a bit of a silly mood today. It's Friday. It is Friday after all. Sorry. It's an Irishman. The Scottishman. Well, they don't know that's why they want independence, because they all want to be Irishmen, really. That's what it's all about. I don't know. Anyway, amongst the helmets, along that, Bedridge said the helmet had a big dent in it, fatal attack. It must have been a tremendous blow. That was the right person this time. Then we saw the tilting helmet of Henry VIII and an open helmet that belonged to Little John. Wait a minute, I reckon they're having a bit of a ding-dong here. First of all, we've got Robert Bruce, Henry VIII, Sir Henry de Bohun, and now Little John, a mythological character, mate of Robin Hood. For goodness sake, next we'll say that Philip Mercer and others are in there. Who know? Oh, Snug and Cosy turned up, apparently. And many others, and some rare forms of great antiquity, but space forbids my enumerating these catalogue fashion. Thank God for that. They merit more detailed description. Amongst all the wealth of ancient and historic armour, what interested us most was the complete chain suit of Sir Thomas de Sandford, who died in 1190. The innumerable rings of the chain mail thereof are all of steel, and each one separately forged. This is reputed to be the most ancient complete suit of chain armour in Europe, possibly the world. There is a finely engraved suit of armour, once the property of Emperor Maximilian. Near to this hangs an old German executioner's sword, having the following notice attached. The executioner was ennobled after cutting off the heads of 3 noblemen, each at one blow with his sword. Or similar. In the good old times, yeah? Preserved in another spot is a curious helmet of tin, found at Lostwithel in Cornwall, and Richard Mousel, and which probably is Phoenician. Against this is a truly ghastly relic of the long ago, consisting of an ancient Saxon helmet of bronze with the upper part of the skull still retained in it. Oh, my head. This skull has a barbed iron arrowhead through the front that tells its own story. Another helmet close by once belonged to Withred, the first Christian king of Kent, who died at Dover 726. Leaving the hall, we were conducted to the withdrawing room, to use the Elizabethan expression in keeping with the place, and amongst the many beautiful pictures there, a small oil sketch by Raphael delighted us, the more especially on account of the surprising freshness of its colouring. It might only have just left the artist's easel. Little Johnny came running in and said, "Where's my picture?" Grabbed it and ran out the room immediately. Oh no, sorry, I made that up. When will modern painters learn the secret of the old masters, whose works stand unchanged for centuries? There is a portrait of Lady Farrers Ferrars. Ferrars? Ferrars. I have no idea how you pronounce that. Ferrars. 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 Widow, you might think I've been drinking, but I really have. Tea, yes, copious amounts of tea. Slurp. Anyway, she was Lady Ferrars was the widow of Lord Ferrars, Farrar, who murdered his bailiff in a fit of temper, and being a nobleman, had the privilege of being hanged with a silver cord. Yes, I am. I'm noble. Give me a silver cord, if you wouldn't mind. And I trust he appreciated the privilege. Oh, yes, nice bit of silver round the old neck as you go. It's delightful, don't you know? Near to this is a painting of Lady Horton, of whom Lord Byron wrote, "She walks in beauty like the night." And he wrote it in that voice as well. The original autographic verses were preserved at Parham. Next, we came to the dining room, round the walls of which are ranged a number of fine full-length portraits of notable persons. One of these paintings is particularly curious. It is of Sir Ralph and Lady Assheton of Whalley by Sir Peter Lay. Lady Assheton ran away from her husband, whereupon he promptly pursued and brought her back. "Come here, foul woman!" In the picture, Sir Ralph is shown tightly holding the lock of his wife's hair, with one of his feet firmly placed on the skirt of her gown. This picture is pregnant with the meaning manifestly intended. Over the fine mantelpiece, I wonder what that meaning is. Over the fine mantelpiece in this grand chamber, we notice the coat of arms of the family carved, as was the custom to place them, with the motto below, "Let Curzon hold what Curzon held." As we ascended to the top of the house, our attention was called on the way to an opening in the kitchen wall. This was closed by a shutter, an opening which the mistress of the establishment could look down below and see what was going on there. What, I wonder, would the present-day servant think of such an arrangement? Our houses show our changed manners. Yes, now they've got spy cameras. Let's have a look and see what Fanny is doing in the kitchen. Tip, 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 tip. I see Fanny's not making the soup as she is supposed to be. It seems she is playing with the mouse traps. As we read that, yes, reaching the gallery at the top of the building, extending from one end to the other thereof, and some 180 feet long by 20 broad, we admired the wide prospects over the wild park that our elevated position afforded. Rich woodlands varied by curved sweeps of green sward and enlivened by the silvery gleam of water. These long galleries, so placed, are a characteristic feature of all genuine Elizabethan mansions, and would appear to have been originally intended to form dormitories, as otherwise the sleeping accommodation of these homes would be quite inadequate for their size. Here hangs a large picture. The murder of innocence. There's been a murder. A murder. The Murder of Innocence by Raphael. And one that used to, don't tell me, little Johnny's going to run in and grab it again. And one that used to hang in his studio. I had this in my studio when I used to do a lot of painting, said Raphael one day. It is done in watercolours, and history has it that the juices of various plants were used as a vehicle to apply them, which explains why if you lick them, you get a little bit of carrot, a little bit of lemon, and pomegranate. Apparently. Possibly an experiment indeed by a large and important painting in such a medium by so famous an oil painter seems to point to this. That's why it's upstairs in the loft where no one can see it, I suppose, because it was an experiment that may have gone wrong. Under one of the deeply recessed windows of the gallery, the top of the seats lift up. Yeah, it's the toilet, don't tell me. And discloses darksome hiding hole, and a very cramped and uncomfortable one it must have been, for there is a degree of discomfort in such places compared with others. Shush. Some are even spacious. I don't know what he's talking about now. Spacious and luxurious. Leading out one end of the gallery is the chapel, it being placed at the top of the mansion in accordance with the old, and maybe modern as well, for aught I know, Roman Catholic traditions, that there should be nothing above the building consecrated for worship. Ah, is that a true thing then? So there should be nothing above the altar, presumably, so that you have that higher connection with God. So you can't put an altar in a crypt, presumably. There is some fine oak carving and a curious font, purchased, we were told, from some church in Oxfordshire, whilst undergoing a thorough restoration. A very thorough restoration, we imagine. In an ancient bedroom under the chapel, or at least we imagined it to be so from what we could make out of the geography of the house, is a sliding panel in the wainscot, which gives us access to a secret passage closely approaching the perpendicular. I've always wanted to approach the perpendicular. This appears to lead to the basement by the side of the chimney in the kitchen. Down this, we learnt the priest once made his escape, his priestly office not serving to protect him from his enemies. When will the world learn the often repeated lesson, though the priest may save his soul, he cannot by his craft save his body? Returning to the hall, we had pointed out to us the arms of Queen Elizabeth, I guess the first, emblazoned on, because the second probably hadn't been born by then, and not only had she not been born, she had not been, bang you on the head with this sword and make you the queen business. She must have had a bit of a headache that day. Queen Elizabeth, emblazoned on the top of the wall at one end, with the date 1593 inscribed above, and the letters below. ER. This, we understood, commemorates the fact that the Queen Elizabeth, having dined in the hall when on her way to Cowdray, when she sat under the spot marked by the Royal Arms. Oh, nice. The Royal Arms is not the name of a pub, by the way. That's the thing above her head. In the garden at Parham, we noticed the figures of the hours shown by flowers, planted to represent them round an ancient sundial. The pillar of the dial forming the gnomon. It's got a G in it, which I was assuming is silent. The nomen. I'm stuck on that word. It's sticking in. It's like pulsing in my face. And telling the time. I don't know what a gnomon is, but anyway, it's got a big, fat, hairy gnomon there. Just make sure you stand well clear of it. And telling the time, more or less correctly, by the shadow it casts on the flower. It's a pretty idea. Don't laugh. Don't laugh at me, 'cause I am a fool. After this, we bade a reluctant goodbye to this picturesque and pleasant old world home, and the grand old Duke of York, and the grand old park that appears to fade away into the bare blue downs. The sun, as we left, was lighting up the grey and time-toned walls of the ancient mansion and resting on the woods beyond. The picture was perfect. We lingered on our way with many a backward glance, till at last Parham was lost to our vision and only a memory of it remained. I know he writes... Sorry about my lackadaisical approach to today's reading. I know he writes in a very cliché and somewhat obvious tone in his writing. But you've got to remember it's 100 and something, days ago. Tickner Edwards came some 10 years later. I'm guessing that was how people wrote. I suppose other people wrote a bit better than him than this, because he's repeating the same old thing. And he just churned out the books. He's got hundreds of these books. Hurrah, says Linda Kane. No men. Ah, no men. Well, why didn't they just say no men? That'd be so much easier, wouldn't it? Chainmail, bring back the string vests. Marvellous. Linda Kane says the husband of a friend of mine was evacuated from the East End of Parham during the war. A curious shock, but he said it was the best time of his life. Marvellous. It is a part of a sundial that casts a shadow. Was it a gnome? Seems an odd to have in a palace garden. Yes, I don't think it was a gnome. It was a gnomon, which is spelt with a G, of course. We're on chapter 11, ladies and gentlemen, and we're not even half past. Fantastic. Just excuse me whilst I just have a look to see what that was. That's all good. Right. Chapter 11. Driving out of Parham Park, we found ourselves once more on the high road. A rather dusty one it proved to be, but the scenery was charming and more than compensated for the dust. After a slight rise, we had a grand view ahead over a long, low, level stretch of country that faded away into the distance of circling blue. And in 2 or 3 miles we found ourselves at Amberley. Sorry, just thinking how they got to Amberley from Parham. So they must have... Well, I guess they must have gone through... So there's 2 ways you could have done this. Well, there's probably 3 ways you could have done it if you'd taken the very, very long way round through Pulborough and down and back again. But you wouldn't have done that. So he's either... if he's gone to Amberley from Parham, he's either gone through the house and come out the other end, turned left down to Rackham, and then turned right to Amberley, or he's come out at Amberley, come out at the front gates again, gone back towards Sturrington, turned at the garage and the roundabout, past the pond, turned at the garage and the roundabout, probably filled up with a few Mars bars and trinkets and what have you, painted a little gnome sitting there with a beard, and then gone back past Rackham and in the Downs to get to Amberley. It's probably what he's done. And Linda Kane is agreeing with my first hypothesis. What's the word? Hypothesis. Thank you. Hippopotamus. Out of the back entrance through the park. Yes, that's what I mean. Out the back entrance, turn left and down past Rackham, presumably, is what I was saying. Lee Lawson says, I was hoping Hissey would mention the peculiar painting on a kangaroo at Parham. The skin was brought to England and stuffed, but no one had seen a real roo. It ended up in a rather odd shape. Ah. Maybe they were still stuffing it when he went in there to have a look. Anyway, he's ended up at Amberley, a sleepy, forsaken-looking, old-world village with a crumbling castle and an ancient, interesting church. Made videos there. A primitive, picturesque village. If he uses that word once more, it will. Does he not have a thesaurus? Surely there are other words than picturesque. But anyway. That seemed hardly to belong to this century and gave us a delightful feeling of remoteness and repose. Amberley is situated at the foot of the Downs, where a short dry... Thymy turf. Is it thyme, I would have said, but no, thymmy. Thymy, thymy. Turf of the chalk upland gives place to a great wide stretch of marshy meadowlands and long wavering grasses. That's the wild brooks, isn't it? This flat district intersected by numerous stagnant streams is known as the wild brooks. On some old maps it is, however, marked as the weald brooks, from which just possibly wild brooks may have evolved. Linda says it's marginally better than quaint. Yes, that's true. This quaint old town. I love this quaint old town. Don't you, Mary Lee? I do, boy. I think it's just divine. I love quaint England. It's just so picturesque. It is picturesque. I'm glad you chose that word, Mary Lou. I've seen it in a book by a man named Hissey. I just can't get over how picturesque it was. Aren't Theosaurus extinct? Well, they are extinct, but I still think that you can stuff them and get them into a strange shape. Anyway, where the hell are we? We fondly, yes, if you wish to discover the origins of a curious geographical name, consult an ancient map. We fondly imagine that we have thus unearthed the source of sundry place names that have puzzled us by their peculiarities. In the summertime, and the living is easy, Amberley is a delightful spot, at least in the dry season. In the winter, however, when the marshes are frequently flooded and damp, and depressing mists hang heavily over the water, the flat watery expanse, suggestive of ague and other evils, it is the reverse of delightful. You see, now, if you had one of those, what's the thing that tells you what's the opposite of, what do they call those ones that give you the opposite? You've got a thesaurus for looking up the sounds like, and what's the thing that's called when it's the reverse? If you had one of them books, you'd be all right. One of those books, I beg your pardon. No, one of them books. In fact, the difference between the winter and the summer aspect of Amberley is pointedly signified by the local saying. What is the local saying? In wintertime, an inhabitant of the place is supposed to reply to the query, "Where do you belong?" with "Amberley, God help us." But in the summer, the reply to the same question is, "Where do you belong?" Amberley, where else would you live? The Arun that winds through the marsh between earth banks is a fish-full river, though, strangely enough, there is no Angler's Inn at hand. You've got to cross the railway line to get to it. Amberley trout are famous, and one of Fuller's, not Fuller's the brewery, I'm sure, 4 Good Things of Sussex, and other things about Arundel mullet. What? Amberley trout are famous and are one of Fuller's 4 Good Things of Sussex. The other things being the Arundel mullet, the Chichester lobster, and the Selsey cockle. Isaac Walton, that prince of fishermen, often indulged in the gentle craft here. Good old Isaac Watson here, and old there, just Isaac Watson, just do some fishing here, if that's all right with you. The castle is a mere shell and stands upon sandstone rock that is just raised above the level of the marsh. Oh, picture coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Amberley Castle from the Wild Brooks. Let's have a gander. Ding! Look at that. On a cold, wet, windy night, you can go fishing there with Isaac Watson. It's very picturesque. Ding! I'm told. Isn't that lovely? Doesn't look like that now, unfortunately. You can't see there all the cars parked down that lane just here. All the cars that come down here and park up. And it's fenced off for one thing. And there's a few more trees. What about J.R. Hartley? Yeah, I never know whether J.R. Hartley, what he did with all the flies that he managed to catch when he went fishing for them. But by golly, he managed to get, how he got them on the hook, I don't know. There, fly fishing by J.R. Hartley. Oh, sorry, that one's meant for the soup. Where are we going? I'm getting rid of all my good jokes. The Vogue show tonight will be rubbish. Seen from below, with the church apparently incorporated... We still got people watching. I may have put people off by my silliness today. Seen from below, with the church apparently incorporated with it, and backed by the downs, here, well wooded at the base, Amberley Castle forms an effective picture. Not picturesque, but an effective picture. And from this point of view, we made a sketch of it, reference to a few minutes ago when I showed it up in a second. The entrance is on the other side, the south side. Yes, that's right. And is flanked by 2 round towers. In the grass-grown courtyard of the ruins are the slight remains of a chapel, opposite which is a pleasant modern farmhouse built within the walls. the exterior of the castle is more imposing than the interior. In fact, the interior is distinctly disappointing, which is why they have weddings in there. A very ancient oak door that creaked mournfully on its rusty hinges as we opened it leads directly from the castle courtyard to the grave-thronged churchyard. Come this way, sir. The church is interesting, and the church is interesting. Actually, I've filmed in the church. The carvings on the south doorway are very fine. The delicately modelled pillars have very beautiful early English capitals decorated with oak leaves and vines. The art mason who sculptured this must have rejoiced at his work and studied nature long and lovingly. Within the building we discovered, fixed to the north wall and close to the pulpit, an ancient hourglass stand in the form of an iron bracket that plainly spoke of other days and other ways. How often did the rural congregation closely watch the emptying of the hourglass, I wonder, when the sermon proved wearisome? Yeah, I bet they're all going, oh, come on, we got to go, can't understand bloody word you're saying there. In the chancel there is a small but very good brass to one John Wantley, who died in 1424. He is portrayed in complete armour, with long spurs on his steel shoes. Over the armour is a surcoat and tabard charged with 3 lions' heads, enamelled green. The chancel arch, we noted, was Norman, with the characteristic dog-tooth mouldings. The font is old and quaint. Quaint! We got a quaint in there, just for you. But we could not judge the period. On the west wall we observed a consecration cross. The church is flint-built and has red-tiled roof, green with moss in parts. The grey-blue of the flints, with the mingling of red and green on the roof, formed most effective colour contrasts. It is always well to look out for colour when travelling. Those who fail to do so lose much. Yes, I bet. 31 watching. 32 now, according to my thing. I like a bit of silliness, says Justine Jones. Well, you've come to the right place here. There is a nice bench just at the bottom of that lane. Ah, lovely. And Julia says, Leah, I once had to check the kangaroo painting you mentioned has been on display, only been on display in Parham in recent years. It seems to be owned by the National Maritime Museum. It's called the Cong something or other, New Holland, painted by my favourite painter, George Stubbs. And Nigel says, hello, just popping in while I'm waiting for some architects to finish a meeting at work. Nice to see you, Nigel. Thank you for giving us a few moments of your time. Leaving Amberley, we next came to Houghton. Oh, sorry, I made that very, very definite, didn't I? But actually, that's not what happened. Leaving Amberley, we next came to Houghton Bridge, a grey and ancient stone structure of many arches, where we found ourselves alongside the clear-flowing Arun. What they didn't see, of course, was the museum down in the old chalkworks, mainly, I suppose, because it wasn't there. And neither would they have known that on the other side was where they filmed a James Bond film. But that was all to happen in the future. We asked our way to Arundel and were informed that we could get there by keeping to this side of the river, only you'll have to drive over the downs part of the way, or you can cross the bridge and go by the high road. Yes, that's very strange. If they're in Houghton, to get to Arundel, what would they do? They would have to go, basically, they'd go up towards the top of Berry Hill, get up to Crossways, where Walter Wilkinson, you may remember, hid from the policeman who was on point duty some 25 years hence, so they wouldn't have seen him. And then back down again on the left. And if they were going to go, what would they do? They could go by North and South Stoke, couldn't they? And then cross the river. They were better off doing that, I would have thought. See what they do. It's interesting when you know the area. Yes. Here we asked our way to Arran, and we informed we could get there by keeping on this side of the river. You'll only have to drive over the downs part of the way. Anyway, we elected to cross the downs in preference to the dusty roads, and so we sought for more explicit instructions, and we were informed to take the first turning on the left, which we did, all too faithfully, and found ourselves landed in a chalk pit. Ah, yes, probably at the bottom of the cliff there. So we had to hark back to the main road and took the next, and we took the next and right turning to the left. No pun in. Oh, the next right. Yes. Oh, yes. So that'll take them down to. There's a phone box down there, down that road, which I put my card in. One of these cards with the lovely Julia and myself. If you would like one of these cards signed by the lovely Julia and myself, send a £50 note to Good Cause and then email me and I'll send it to you. Yeah, we did. There's a phone box down there with, I can't remember if it's got library books. It's got a map in it, I think, if I remember. I think it's got books in it and a map. And it takes you down to a church at North Stoke where we got Annabel Hughes, Dr. Annabel Hughes, who's only knee-high to a grasshopper, to tell us about the church. I made a video there. You can look it up. Don't ask me to find it. You can look it up. I always have to look these bloody videos up. Anyway, during our ascent, we had glorious views presented to us, looking right through the wooded Arran Valley, bounded by the wooded hills on either side. Wait a minute. When he says he's going up, he's going up. So maybe he is going up to Berry Hill then. That's confusing me, because I'm sure he said he'd just turned left off the main road. During our ascent, we had glorious views presented to us, looking right down the wooded Arran Valley, bound in by Wood Hill. Oh, we'd got up to Houghton. Wait a minute, the road I'm thinking of is well before Houghton. I beg your pardon. That's at oh no, Houghton Bridge. Yeah, no, that's right. I was right. I'm getting myself confused here. Bound in by the wooden hills on either side, with the sea-seeking river winding through it. The sea-seeking river. That river is seeking the sea. It's winding through it like a narrow ribbon of glistening silver. High up on the faraway horizon, we caught the sight of the sea sparkling in the sunlight. Well, they must be at the top now, where Whiteways is, because that's the only place you'd be able to see it. And about midway between us and it, the mass of Arundel Castle stood out dark and grey on a projecting wood spur of the sloping down. Where the hell can he be? You can't see the castle from the top of Whiteways, and if he had gone left, he would be right down in the valley. Annabel Hughes died only last week. Oh no, did she? Poor, oh, what a shame. A remarkable woman and the authority on wielding buildings. I've got her book, Horsham Houses. I know she wrote another one as well. Oh, what a shame. That's a shame. We was hoping to get her back to do some more stuff. How interesting. I mean, how sad is what I mean. Then a lovely walk to the beautiful redundant church in South Stoke. Yes, that's it. Where can he be? I can't work that out in my head. I can't work out where he is, knowing the area reasonably well. To see it from above, he would have... I mean, that's artistic license, I think, is going on here. It was a delightful prospect with a special character of its own. I think there is nothing quite like it anywhere else in England. The sea and the river combined in one view, the graceful curve of the downs, the southern luxuriance of the woods. Unless he's come out, he can't have come out at Crossbush, can he? He can't have come out there. I'm just trying to think. Hang on, he's down at Houghton. It's just, I'm sorry, I've got to have a look at the map. Because I'm a little confused now. Let's have a look. Because also people like TurboStream haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. Let's get let's get in. What should we do? We'll go on Google Didgeridoo Maps for the moment. Follow my lead, gentle viewer. Here we are, Google Maps. Bing. Right, we'll come out of Worthing. Right, Arundel. So there's Houghton. Houghton is up there. Arundel is down here. He claims... Let's have a look at the satellite view. I know that if you're at... Here's... You see, I figured he was here. He said he was here. Houghton, wait a minute, Houghton Bridge is somewhere down here, isn't it? Wait a minute, have I lost the... Here's... Oh, that's Amberley. That's the only bridge he can be talking about, because if he's come up to Houghton here, that's too far. Amberley is... Where's Amberley gone? Amberley is over here. So he was over there in Amberley, and he must have travelled one way or another back down here. And he gets down to the bridge. So there's the chalk pit and there's the museum. Or the music. Where have they put the museum? The museum's in there. Here's the cliffs where they filmed... I forget which James Bond film it was. So he's down here. There's the bridge, the old stone bridge going over the thing. And he said go first left. Well, if you go first left, he said he ended up here. But that's interesting because that's the one he went into the chalk pit. Come out here, second one, Stoke Road. This is what I thought he was on. Takes him down here. Come right the way down here, right the way down here. And I thought he was there, which, if I'm right, there's a phone box. There it is. My card's in that phone box. Hey! So where else could he go? Oh, hang on. I've got me. Go the other way around. Right, yeah. So he's come down here. Clitter, 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 clatter, clatter. Now, I assumed he would come down this way. But has he come up here? Oh, he's come... What? Maybe he's... Oh. So has he gone down there, turned right, up here? That's why he can see it. Ah, I've got it. Because if you're there... If you're here... you will see Arundel Castle there. That makes sense. So he has gone... Oh, why can't I? So, yeah, because he's not driving on roads. He's going on... There is a road here. I've walked on this. I did a video. Wait. Aaron Banks. Isn't he somebody to do with Brexit, Aaron Banks? What's he doing there? So that bridge probably wasn't there. St. Leonard's Church. So I thought he was coming up that way, through Offham and up there. But I don't think he did that now. I think from what he's saying, elevated position, this is up. And then you come out at Warning Camp. He must have come up there, and then he's got to come... Sorry, I know this is a bit confusing. But those that know the area will know what I'm talking about. So he'll come out where we filmed a bit of Snug and Cosy onto the main road here. That's right, here. By the station and drive down, and that is the best view that you get. That is the classic view as you drive down that. Millions of people drive down that way, down that road. The best view is here. Whoops, hang on. You just go down here. I've been... Oh, for goodness sake. Bloody stupid program this is. There we go. Get round here. This is the... Look, all these cars, the best view is here. Across. Can't see it very well, but that is the best view up there. And you get this terrific view. This is such a wide angle lens they've got. You don't appreciate it. But it's... And I've stood there and filmed with my camera in the past. So there we are. Sorry about that. Maybe a premium rate number 2. What's this? Richard's got a sideline. A card left in a phone box. Sounds dodgy. Yes, I do get, every now and again I'll get a phone call. That's why I'm always looking at my phone. And I'm so sorry, I've got a service to provide, don't you know, at North Stoke. In the church, in the deserted church where nobody is around, I do a little service. Linda says, from the top of the hill. Yes, if you click 3D, you get a 3D. Yes, of course, that's very true. You get 3D. I've got to find where the 3D is now. Hang on. Where is the 3D? Oh, there it is. It was on 3D. Wrong button. Oh, I'm confused. Click 3D. There we are. That's 3D. I don't even know where I am now. Oh, there we are. Yeah, from the top of this hill somewhere. At the top of where are we? That's the turning there. That's the top of the hill. Just there, in there is a what do you call it? A defence thing. One of those pits that what do they call it? The Royal. There's in there. I've been to it, made a video there. We had to sneak down here and get in. It's probably around here, actually. And there's a pit there where the people who were on the suicide mission, that should there be an invasion and the Germans had a headquarters, the chances are they would have been at Arundel Castle. And so their mission in these, I forget what they're called, these little dugout hideouts would be to get across here, get in there, kill the captain or the big wig who's living in Arundel Castle, and they would know that they would never get out of it. It would be shot. They would be shot. How do you? Oh, here we go. So that's the view that you get of Arundel Castle. Look at that. See? Isn't that lovely? How do we make that fly around there like that? We'll pretend to be in a helicopter. Just remember, you're paying good money for this. Not really. That's the keep. Been in there. It's all quite nice. It's all quite nice. It's quite nice. Anyway, yeah. Not a pillbox. Yeah, it's a bunker. It's it's three letters. I forget what it. Defence something whatever. And they were given. It was civilians, and they had to volunteer on it. And they were told if ever they told anybody, they would be shot. And it was a suicide mission, basically, and everybody else would have evacuated. The Germans would have taken in, and I forget what it's got a proper name. I did a video about it. I can't remember. How are we doing on the time? Look, it's nearly time to go. Nearly time to go. Hang on, let's just quickly finish off this bit and find an area to... We'll never get to the end of this chapter. Right, high up on the faraway horizon, we caught the sight of the sea sparkling in the sunlight, and about midway between us and it was the mass of Arundel Castle stood out dark and grey on the projecting wooded spur of the sloping downs. It was a delightful prospect with a special character of its own. I think there is nothing quite like it anywhere else in England. The sea and the river combined in one view, the graceful curve of the downs, the sudden luxuriance of the woods, and the fine outline of the castle so happily disposed in the landscape, form a rare picture, yet one that I do not remember even having seen painted. Yes, of course it's been painted. A somewhat strange fact, considering that the Valley of the Arun has been a favourite theme for artists for generations past. Turner knew and loved it well. Then we parted company with our road and drove along the hard, smooth turf of the downs. It was delightfully easy and noiselessly travelling, though the carriage rolled about a little on the uneven ground like the sea of a ship. It was perhaps a venturesome proceeding, but we were assured that the route was feasible. Moreover, the day was warm and fine, and time was our servant, not our slave. Still further, we remembered the fact that we had a friend who had successfully explored the South Downs in this haphazard fashion, regardless of the regular roads, when these did not tend in the desired direction, and regardless also, I fear, of the law of trespass. I was going to say, it seems that in these days, 100-odd years ago, they could just jolly well go wherever they like. After a time, we began a gradual descent to the river, and we had to thread our way along between thick gorse bushes. Distant hedges and woods now became into sight, and made us wonder how we were to get through them, and if we got through them, whether we should be able to get on further. There was, however, nothing for it but to press on and to trust to luck. Still, we could not help wondering what would be at the end of our exploit. So they didn't quite, I don't think they quite got to Crossbush. They must have just got up on the hill somewhere there and then came down. It would be annoying if, after all, we could not find a way into the valley. But just as we were wondering what our fate would be, we espied a gate and in a long line of hedges and made for it, and this led us to a rutty lane that did not look very promising and might end abruptly in a farmhouse or another chalk pit. However, it was a case of Hobson's choice, so down the lane we drove with a good deal of jolting, and eventually struck upon a decent road that had a look of leading to somewhere, and it led us into the primitive, out-of-the-world village of Burpham. So I'm completely wrong. Presently situated on a chalk cliff above the river. So they didn't get up there. Hang on a minute. We've got 6 minutes left. They didn't go where I thought. Well, that's very strange. Where else could they possibly have been? I'm so sorry. I must just work this bit out. So Burpham is... hang on, where's Burpham now? I've got to get... Houghton is here. Arundel is directly there. They must have come down here. Yeah, so oh, right. So they must have got here. So I reckon they've come out of Houghton. Instead of going quite where I said and gone all that way around, because you never quite know what the distance in them, they've somehow got up above North Stoke here. What is that then? That's the railway, above where the railway line cuts through. And then somehow they must have come down here. Round these long line of hedges, got up to Burpham. So I reckon that's what they've done, something like that. So now what will he do? Presumably they'll follow that down to Warning Camp and go across. Presumably they will do the thing that I was thinking about. Sorry, we're just trying to find a spot to end because it's the end of the week, and we will. Hang on, get my mouse back. It's all very exciting, isn't it? Well, as soon as we get them there, we'll get them birth. We took a glance inside the church. It's a very nice church there, actually. Tickner Edwards was buried at that church, funnily enough, but he had yet to. Well, he was born at the same time. He was born, but he was not yet dead. He may well have been living there at this time as they passed his house or went into the church. That would be funny, wouldn't it, if he passed him by or even mentioned the vicar there. Yeah, we took a glance inside the church, and as we passed close to it, we noticed therein some Norman arches with dog-tooth mouldings of rather unusual form. We learned afterwards that the vicar does not consider the carving to be strictly dogtooth. That must be Tickner Edwards. But to be symbolical of the crown of thorns. The cliff is crowned with a wide and grass-grown earthwork that, from its size, we judged to be, in prehistoric days, that of considerable importance. In the river below, an ancient British canoe scooped out of the trunk of a big oak tree was discovered in 1858. This was buried in the mud. The canoe is now preserved in the museum at Lewes Castle, where we saw it on our last stage homeward. I think that's a good place. I think, hang on, I'll just finish this last bit and then we'll finish. Descending to the river, we discovered a primitive ferry there, and we were paddled over to the opposite shore in a large leaky boat for the sum of twopence. We made a sketch of the ferry from the point where we landed, an engraving of which is given in the frontispiece. Well, I'm blowed. Burpham Ferry. I know where they are. I think I've been there with Mr. What's his name? Burpham Ferry. Good gracious. Look at that. Beautiful sketches that he did. Beautiful sketches. The book is sadly falling to bits as I read it, which is a bit of a shame. Right, nearly there. Nearly at the end. An uncommercial ferry is a pleasing feature in the country. It is such a truly picturesque object therein, and is so fraught with old-world associations and traditions, and dearly loved by the ancient school of romance writers. A ferry with some roundheads in hot pursuit of hard-pressed cavaliers was just the very thing, nor did it come amiss in the case of sundry runaway lovers. Ferries, fords and stepping stones are oftentimes inconvenient, very inconvenient, in fact, as I can testify from experience, but I should be sorry, for my part, to have them improved altogether out of existence. There is not so much poetry in the world nowadays that we can easily afford to lose any. Life is becoming very easygoing and very humdrum. By some strange unhappy law, progress and sanitation seem to be antagonistic to the picturesque. Bing! The engineer stands supreme throughout the land, and beauty languishes. And there we will leave it. We will leave it there, for he's going to be leaving Burpham below on the ferry. How amazing. What an exciting journey today. Thank you so much. Is that the canoe that's in Worthing Museum now, do you think? Says Lee Lawson. I wonder if it is. Very inconvenient place to leave you. Stranded, says Dave of Yore. That is good. And all those small hand ferries, a ferry across the river. Yes, brilliant. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. It has been absolutely fun-packed and rather silly reading, but we are halfway. Look, halfway, and what is this? 13. So this will be about 26 episodes. How exciting. Well, don't forget to join me again on Monday when we continue with this at 4 o'clock. I look forward to it very much. In the meantime, there is a Vogue show this evening. There's another video on the Sussex Border Walk to enjoy tomorrow. Linda Kane will enjoy that. Hello. And somebody just coming in. I think that's the burglar. And I always arrange the burglar to come at the appropriate time so I can show him where the silver is. And then, yes, there's a Vogue show tonight. So there we go. Thank you so much. Look after yourselves and take care and all of that. And arrivederci.com. Ta-ta for now. Bye.